Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Soul Rising podcast. My name is Amanda McCoy Flanagan. I am your host. Thank you so much. If you're new here, thanks for tuning in. If you're coming back, awesome. Really, really appreciate you. Couldn't do the show without you. So thank you. I always have amazing guests, like I always say. And today I have Jodi Parker. She is a local Castle Rockian, right? You live in Castle Rock?
I do. Yep.
I met Jodi at an event at our chiropractor, Restoration Chiropractor. Shout out to Dr. Hanson. Woo woo. And we met and we started talking and we hit it off. And I'm like, this girl knows what's up. I really like her. So I had her on my mind to be on the show for a while. So we're finally getting it together. And I'm so happy to have you with us. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Jodi, give you a little bit of her background, then I'm going to turn it over to her, and we're going to actually be diving into all things shadow work today. So, and Jodi has a particular view of it, which is a little bit different. Hang on for that. So here we go. Jodi Parker is a health and wellness consultant, peak stage trauma release specialist, and medical freedom activist, combining her education and vast life experience to engage wisdom and knowledge to assist you on your healing journey. In 2004, when her oldest child went into early liver failure as an infant, Jodi became an expert on detoxing and pure living in order to save her son's life. Emboldened by her newfound holistic knowledge, she began assisting other mothers in their quest to heal children outside of conventional approaches. Jodi also homeschools her 3 children. Her passion for health led her to become one of the original founding council members of the Million Mom movement from 2016 to 2022. There, she empowered caregivers to engage in healthy living and health activism. She's been actively involved in the medical freedom community since 2015. Jodi's theory of healing is that you must heal at an energetic, emotional, and physical level in order to find full balance in life. In her quest to become a wellness expert, she has studied peak states, subcellular, and developmental psychobiology. Wow, that's pretty freaking impressive. All aspects of holistic alternative health modalities, shamanic and quantum energy healing, and meditation and breath work. She is also certified. So we talked about, this is a long bio, but everything is so cool that like I have to read it all. So bear with me, people. Mm-hmm. Certified in Black Hat Feng Shui. She is a certified Dharmaja master and certified shaman. In 2024, she began integrating trauma release therapy into her practice, finding that to be the most efficient and effective healing modality yet. She combines all these energetic healing modalities into what she calls quantum vibrational healing, a pathway to removing the physical, emotional, and energetic blocks that hinder optimal health. She strives to constantly learn new and better ways to help people live their higher living journey. Jodi, that is just super interesting and impressive and all the things. So welcome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what started you? I mean, we talked about your son, being ill. So can you tell us a little bit about that and why you're so passionate about all this?
Wow. It's interesting how life, well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for having me on here. I tend to just go for it. And I'm like, oh, cities, So what got me here? Well, we all know that every step gets us where we're going, right? But I was a television producer back in 2000 through 2002. And we had this herbalist that would come on the show and teach us all the different natural remedies if you had a sore throat or an earache or things like that. And she started teaching me about how we had to treat the cause and not the symptom. So everything in my life became about that. And my son was born in 2004. And by the time he was 5 months old, he was an early liver failure. And the pediatrician was trying to put him on Zantac, even though he wasn't spitting up. And he was trying to put him on Miralax because he was so constipated that nothing was coming out. But Miralax isn't approved for babies. And I was like, that doesn't feel right at all. What's the cause? And he's like, well, I don't know. And the gastroenterologist was 8 weeks out and he wasn't having bowel movements. It wasn't okay. So that was back in the day before we had social media. And he's 21. And so I started going through my list of people, calling everybody I knew until I found a doctor who could help. He happened to be a chiropractor who had training in bioenergetic medicine. And it turns out that my son, basically from esophagus to rectum and everything in between, was inflamed, food allergies, chemical sensitivities. histamine reactions because he can't break down histamine. We've done the genetics, it sent me down this huge rabbit hole. So all of a sudden I had all these tools to help other mothers. And then my second son was born in 2008, my daughter in 2013. And we're sort of canary in the coal mine sort of family. We have really sensitive genetics. So I had to live the pure living and learn it all in order to keep us all healthy. And it made me very passionate about giving solutions to everybody else, because I know there's nothing worse than watching your baby struggle and not knowing what to do about it. It's awful.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Just feeling powerless, right? So needing to seek out. I'm so proud of you. Like, that's amazing to take matters into your own hands and be like, no, like, this is not pumping my kid, my baby with Zantac and Miralax. Like, that's not going to be the solution. And
Right.
you found a way. It's so cool. I can feel I don't know you that well, but I can feel into your energy, and I can just tell that you find a way. You're one of those survivors, right?
I do. I find a way. I am one of those people who just believes there will be a solution, and I don't give up until I found it. Like, my husband had knee problems and thought he was going to need surgery. And I was like, no, we're not doing that.
No.
It took a little while to find a solution, but I did. We've been through it. Like, we've been through Lyme and co-infections, and people said, oh, you have Lyme disease? No, I'm walking a Lyme journey. It's not in remission. It's gone. But I've been very, very blessed with amazing practitioners. And they let me ask 8 gazillion questions. And so I just learned as I went. And sometimes people will say, well, you're not a doctor. You're just a mom. Oh, there's nothing like a mom on a mission.
And mom's intuition, a mother's intuition. We know. My daughter, same thing. She had acid reflux, has acid reflux, and tummy aches and all this kind of stuff. And her gastroenterologist put her on esomeprazole. And I was like, really? No, I want to find a solution. But she was suffering and she was in pain. So I'm like, all right, let's try it. So somebody told me recently about aloe vera juice. Yep. And how that's helpful for acid reflux. So we got some, the good stuff, concentrated stuff, mix it with some juice and some water. And she downs like an ounce of the juice each night after dinner. And she's off the medication because she's telling me that it doesn't feel great, but she doesn't feel any worse. Like, she feels the same basically as if she was taking the medication.
I have a thought for you. When you take her to the chiropractor next, have them check for a hiatal hernia.
Okay.
When the stomach gets wedged underneath the diaphragm and it causes acid reflux, and if that's the cause, they can adjust it down. They can just literally pull the stomach down, and that'll fix it just like that. My son had that when he was little, so I learned how to fix it because it happens in adults when they're stressed, and it'll almost feel like heart palpitations in an adult because that stomach gets up high and it presses on the pericardium. But it is one of the physical reasons that causes acid reflux. And so it's worth a try to see.
Yeah.
Pulling her stomach down will help. If it's that, it will help immediately.
Okay.
So it's worth looking at.
Okay. Totally. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we are in spooky season, and I think the show is going to come out a couple of weeks from now. We are recording this in early October, and shadow work is just something that I've seen you talk about. You're very knowledgeable about it. And I have not actually interviewed anybody yet on the show specifically about shadow work. We may have talked about it in roundabout ways but the focus has actually never been that. And I would really love to dive into that. And you told me before that you have a little bit of a different take on the way people typically look at shadow work. So can you tell us about that and all the things? Tell us, open up your brain and your heart and pour it out.
All right, let me see if I can just throw up my brain on you. All right, shadow work. So we mentioned in the beginning that I think that you have to heal energetically, emotionally, and physically. So let's define it. What is it? It is looking at the parts of yourself that you don't want to see. I mean, it's really that simple. And the brighter you are as far as vibrational frequency and how you're walking through the world, the brighter light you have, the bigger shadow you have.
True.
So there's a lot of concepts around that, but it's basically your superpowers before you integrate them. It's your trauma. It's your projections on other people that are really inside of you. It's being able to look in the mirror and clean up your side of the street. Own your stuff. Walk your talk. And so in order to hit all of those areas, the key is feeling it. You have to feel it to heal it. And so what you and I were talking about before we started was sometimes it's really hard to feel because your body is not capable of balancing those emotions. Your nervous system is out of whack. You've got anxiety. You're not sleeping. And by definition, if your nervous system is freezing, it's really hard to feel. And so one of the things I always tell people is if you're in adrenal fatigue, which almost everybody is because everybody walks around stressed all the time, you have to support yourself physically so that your nervous system is calm enough to relax and feel. Anxiety is simply the emotion that covers up anything that's underneath it that we don't want to feel. And so you have to be able to get under the anxiety. So that's going to look like things like B complex, vitamin C, hydration, trace minerals, making sure that your blood sugar stays balanced. If you're not sleeping, working on that. But we're not going down the physical side. We're going down the shadow, more the emotional and the energetic. But I just want to put that's the foundation.
Okay.
So if your body is not strong enough to do it, you have to give yourself grace. This a huge piece of shadow work is giving yourself grace. It's not easy. It's why most people never do it.
Yeah. It's not easy. It's not easy. Most of us, as soon as we feel something uncomfortable, what do? We run, right? We're just like, oh, no, I'm not going there. It will create some anxiety at first. So we have to be willing to walk through that anxiety. And then what's under that anxiety is fear. There's always some kind of fear, right? So how can people find that courage? What can they do to get themselves to that calm place? Do you have a couple of tried and true practices when you work with people to get them able to be calm enough to feel safe enough to feel?
Yes. And so it depends on the person. So trauma by definition is an out-of-body experience. So anytime you're trying to process those stuck emotions and that darkness that you don't want to look at, you're usually trying to get out of your body. So step number one is getting in the body. And sometimes that's literally going outside barefoot and walking on the grass. You're in your body, in the now. Breath, absolutely key. And it's not just I'm breathing, it's profound breathing. And I like to think of it, I like to say, breathe into your tailbone. I want you to breathe so deeply that you can move your tailbone with your breath. When you're anxious, you tend to breathe from the diaphragm up. And so you'll see shoulders move, but your shoulders should never move when you're breathing. So if you think about anatomy, right, your diaphragm's down here. And when you take a breath, your diaphragm goes down. So your stomach should expand, not your shoulders. You can call it yoga breathing. You can give it lots of names. But the point is breathe so deeply that you're completely filling up your hips, your abdomen, and you're filling it in all directions. So some people are really good at breathing like up and down or side to side, right? But you want to think of how a balloon blows up.
Oh, the whole thing.
All of it. So if your stomach out, but your back isn't also kind of moving, well, that's not a balloon. Yeah. Does that make sense? And so imagining that you're blowing up a balloon, and you can even isolate it. This is, you met a Dharmaja master. This is Dharmaja breathing. We learned to breathe from the perineum to the belly button, up and down, side to side, back to front. And then you exhale, back to front, side to side, and back down again. And then you can keep doing that through each section of the body, but it's just getting into the body. So breath is absolutely key.
We do some breath work on our retreats and stuff like that. And that's one of the things that I had learned recently about this new practice that I've been doing is about expanding this above the diaphragm in my ribs, like the whole, and that It's also a heart opener, right?
And breathing it into your head, like doing the up and down, side to side, front to back in your head. It's weird. It feels weird when you try and do it, but it works. And it brings your center of awareness inside.
It's so cool how like all it takes is intention.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, because air is not really, I mean, I guess if you're bringing it in, okay, answer this question. From bringing it in to my lungs, does it make its way physically into other parts? I mean, it's oxygen, right? Through my blood? Through
Yes.
my blood.
So, yes. So it's going from your lungs into the blood and then making its way around, and then you're exhaling it back.
Okay.
Right?
Yep. Yeah.
But it's not just, we're frequency beings, right? We're vibrational. And so it's not just the physicality of it, it's the vibration of it. You can talk about meditation and are you in alpha waves or beta waves or delta or theta and those kinds of things. It's going to change the wavelengths of your body, the frequency that your body is moving at. Mm. And so your heart, it's going to be really hard to calm down and feel.
Can you tell us a little bit more what alpha, beta, theta, delta, what that?
I'd have to look it up to remember it exactly. Okay. I mean, they're different areas of awareness. Like some of them are when you're sleeping, some of them when you're deep meditation, and I can't remember which one's which. That's easy to go look up.
It's so cool how we have access to all this stuff today.
Mm-hmm.
Love-hate relationship with technology.
Oh man,
and that's probably another whole episode that we could talk about with you. And
I'm generating X. I want to talk to a person, not to an AI.
Totally. Okay, so talk to us a little bit about the benefit of being in the darkness, because I feel like everybody wants to be happy and love and light and everything's great, but what I heard recently was that like light is not birthed from light, it's birthed from darkness. Like you have to be in the darkness in order to get into the light. What do you think about that?
I think of it slightly differently. You are the light, and you're going into a void. So all darkness is a lack of light. So you're bringing your light into the void, into the places you don't want to see, that you don't want to look at. You're opening the closet doors and you're bringing the light into it. Shadow is ephemeral because it's just you blocking the light. Mm-hmm. Concept is bringing your light to it. Some people talk about Jesus taking the candle through hell. Mm-hmm. And so that's really the hero's journey, or the shadow work that we talk about, or, when we go through an ego death. It's really going through that next step of, I am not the person who is speaking. I'm the person observing the person speaking. It's the observer. And if you can get to being the observer, you're the light when you're the observer. And you bring that into the darkness. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I often talk about, like when I coach people, or actually was just suggesting this before, was, pull yourself out as if you're looking at situations from a bird's eye view, right? Kind of removing your emotional attachment and connection to the situation is going to help you be able to be in the situation without all of that ego, fear, anxiety, whatever it is, because you're removed, you're not dissociated, but you're slightly outside of it. And that's where you can be that light most easily, right? To shine it on whatever that.
You can see it. And that's actually, that's the cycle of karma. So here's a fun one for you. And this does have to go to a shadow work, because people are like, well, that's their karma. Well, what does that mean? A karmic loop is just when you're playing the savior, the victim, and the perpetrator over and over and over. Mm. And you get each of those roles. Imagine, I actually have it. I'm going to grab it because I have a visual. Right. So tetrahedron, right?
Uh-huh.
So the bottom is the triangle. You're going savior, victim, perpetrator over and over again, right? Now be the observer and watch. Isn't that a good visual?
Yes.
And that's how you get out of the karmic loop. Yep. You have to feel, well, where was I playing the savior? And if you think about this, if you're playing the savior, the person that you're playing the savior with, what roles do they get? perpetrator or victim. If you're playing the victim, then the people around you are all saviors or perpetrators. If you're the perpetrator, everyone around you is a savior or victim, right?
Yep.
And so the only way to get out of the loop is to come up here.
Pull yourself up and out.
But here's the big but. In order to get to here, you have to feel all of these.
Okay.
And so you can come up and go, oh, I see what I'm doing there. But that's intellectualizing it. You have to feel.
What does it take to feel those things? Like, do you offer people, how do you move people through that? Like journal prompts or intentional situations? Like, what do you do?
It depends on what we're dealing with. And keeping in mind, like I've been in the healing space. I started training in sort of the metaphysical areas all the way back in 1998, and we're 2025, right? So I've been at this for 27 years. And about a year and a half ago, I found the subcellular psychobiology, the trauma release, which is by far and away the most effective thing I've ever seen in my life, which is why I trained in it. That's a kind of a different modality. So I'm going to give some thoughts up to that point, because one of the easiest ways that you can do it is automatic writing. You give yourself a prompt. Like, I am always stuck in this, this keeps happening to me. Everybody who's supposed to love me leaves me. Maybe that's what you're trying to figure out. Mm-hmm. And the key to shadow work is, how have I created this in my life? And that's not victim shaming.
No.
That's taking responsibility. And some people say, well, I didn't cause that person to hurt me, or I didn't do this. No, but what are you trying to teach yourself? What is it about you that is drawing that experience to you to get the lesson that you need? What lesson are you trying to get?
I love that you're saying this, because I'm in 12-step recovery. I don't know if you know, I've been sober a long time. And a lot of people resist 12 steps because the 4th step is a fearless and searching moral inventory. So what that means is we look at our resentments, we look at how people have hurt us, and then we look at how we've hurt people, right? And then in the 9th step, we make amends and all that. And a lot of people shy away from that because they feel like it's that shaming, or like it's degrading, or like blaming the victim. Like, I don't see how I'm at fault in this. And maybe you're not. I mean, there are some things like you're not, but it is such an effective tool to look at ourselves and say, how am I contributing to this? Because the truth is, we're setting everything in motion through our energy, or it's through, really the energy is what starts it all, the thoughts, actions, all that. So like we're responsible really for every shitty thing in our life, right?
Unfortunately, right? And that's the level that you have to get to do this work. And like, I'll give you a really great personal example. So, I had the traumatic childhood and the father who left me and blah, blah, blah. I'm not caught up in this story now, but right? Everybody abandons me. What was my culpability in that? Why was I so afraid of being abandoned? Because I was continually self-abandoning. Because I was people-pleasing so much and trying to be who I thought people wanted me to be so they wouldn't leave me, that I was leaving myself. And so the mirror is absolutely key to shadow work. You have to be able to look in it and see it. And what we tend to do is we project it outward. Well, that person did this and that person did this and that, or all men are like such and such, right? That's a projection. And really, whatever it is that you're seeing out there that you want to blame, it somewhere inside. That anger, or that, terror, or that sadness, or whatever it is that you're putting out there is inside. And you have to go find it.
Yeah, or else you wouldn't be able to see it, right? Like, we can't see anything unless we already embody it in some way.
Mm-hmm. That's why they say you can't love somebody if you don't love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, kind of I almost cussed.
Go for it. I don't care. We're great.
Blind fuck, right?
Well, completely. Because you really think like, oh no, I love my children. Like, I love my children. How can you tell me that if I don't fully love myself? You might think you do. You might think that love means XYZ.
That's a huge part of being able to kind of get to what your limiting beliefs are. Like, right, love is at the top of a page, And then stream of consciousness, whatever comes to your mind, write down everything that comes to your mind. Love is blah, 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 right? The first time I did that, things like love is depression came out. And you'll start seeing where you're stuck because those limiting beliefs that we've created are shaping our life subconsciously, and we're not even aware we're doing it.
Wild. That's scary, right? That there's like all this stuff going on underneath the surface. So we don't even see. I mean, I've been blindsided a couple times in my life with like some big stuff that I'm like, how did I not see that? Like, I'm a pretty intelligent person, right? So it doesn't have to do with intelligence.
No, it's how we developed and what was true for us as a young child. And it's usually not something that we remember. It's very, very small. When our nervous system was forming, these patterns start, and now we're 30, 40, 50 years old, and that pattern is still there. And we're trying to fix it in the now when it's really way back there. And it's why things seem to not go away, is because we're not dealing with the primary problem. We're dealing with the secondary, the tertiary, the quaternary, etc. And that's why you're like, this keeps happening. It's because you didn't get all the way to the root.
So is that what the subcellular psychobiology does? Could you tell us a little bit about that? How that works?
This is one of the most bizarre. It's so cool. So basically, this engineer was trying to heal his father from schizophrenia. And this was 30 years ago. And he starts trying to figure out how to do that. And long story short, he did figure it out. But he starts doing all these experiments because he's an engineer. So he's designing it in such a way to figure it out. And over 30 years, they come to the conclusion that all your consciousness is in one primary cell. And that cell develops in the 4th stage of development. So when the baby's at 16 cells, one of those cells becomes the primary cell. All your consciousness goes into that cell, and all your trauma goes into that cell. And the trauma is held subcellularly. That's where the name comes from. It's held in the mitochondria and the ribosomes along the nuclear membrane, et cetera, et cetera. It's in the organelles of the cell. And so then you take that cell and imagine it like a hologram over the entire body. And what they have figured out is there's a number of different types of trauma, but there's 3 main ones that cause 70% of everything. The first one is generational trauma. So when there's a trauma and there's epigenetic damage, so when trauma causes the expression of your DNA to change, that gets passed on.
In utero.
In utero, yes. It gets passed on through the father and the mother, through the sperm and the egg. And so that's epigenetic damage. And that's where we get generational curses. When we talk about the generational curse, there's literally a biological explanation for it. Right? Isn't that cool? And talk about we're healing all our ancestors. We are.
Yeah.
But there's a physical component to it. So that's one type of trauma. The next type of trauma is going to be biographical. So that's something that happens in this lifetime. But most people think, well, I got in a car accident. That's it. Usually not. Usually whatever shows up in your body from the car accident was a weak point that was already in the cell because it happened sometime during conception. Because you had a micro tear when the sperm went through the egg wall, and that was a micro trauma, and it just happened to be in the shoulder where the shoulder developed or whatever. And that's why you have to go so far back. But you can regress people. Regression works really well. And there's a lot of people who do regressions out there. It works really well. And we do use that with this modality, but that's the harder way to do it. It takes longer. Usually it's much simpler, but that's number 2. Number 3, and what makes this modality different and why I was like, oh, I have to learn this, is something called body associations. This is the only modality I've found that explains this aspect. It explains addiction. It explains why you are attracted to somebody who's not good for you. It explains allergies. It explains why we do things we know we shouldn't and can't help ourselves.
What is it called again? Can you say it again?
Body association.
Body association. Okay.
So this is so cool. So this is what they figured out. They figured out that in the womb, the baby is, as they're developing, is surrounded by mom, right? And so they're surrounded by mom's feelings. And anytime the baby feels in any way uneasy, afraid, or gets hurt, or, whatever it is, and it doesn't have to be a big thing, it can be a very small thing, it will reach out to the mother's emotions for security. And whatever mom is thinking in that moment, the baby associates with safety.
Wow.
So let me give you two extreme examples of how that ends up showing up later down in life and in these illogical behaviors that we don't know that we have, right? So let's say that mom and dad are having a good time and baby gets bumped on the head. And baby reaches out to mom and mom's in a moment of ecstasy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when that child comes out, they have now associated safety with that high-flying adrenaline feeling. And now they're bungee jumping and walking across, and doing daredevil kinds of things. And they know cognitively this is not safe. But it is what makes them feel safe because they associate that feeling with safety.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. On the flip side, so this is what happened to me. And it's why this modality, I get so excited about it. My mother was abused when she was pregnant with me. And so I am sure there are many times that I got hurt during that process. And so if I were reaching out to her, she was feeling anxiety, suppressed anger, terror, fear, sadness, right?
Yeah.
And so I was this anxious mess. And I would say, I'm just high-strung. I'm just high-strung. I just had lots of body associations to things that made me hypervigilant.
Mm-hmm.
What's fascinating is as I started clearing some of this trauma out of my body, because when we clear it, it's a physical clearing, because we're releasing whatever the stuck protein that isn't coding correctly, we're releasing it from the ribosome that's stuck. And so it's a permanent shift when we get it right.
Okay.
I remember one day this thing that had been bugging me for years and years, and I had coping mechanisms around it, and I handled it fine. Like it was always in the back of my head, but I had learned how to deal with it. But one day I did this trauma session, and it was gone. It's gone. It was gone.
Wow.
I'm 50 years old, and it's gone. How did that happen? And I was like, I need to train in this.
Yeah.
And so as I started to clear, the calmer I got, the more anxious I got, because my body was like, wait, but hypervigilance is safety.
Right.
So I had to clear that belief system around hypervigilance. And it fundamentally changed the way I walked through the world because I didn't have to manage it anymore because it wasn't there anymore.
Okay, so tell us, how exactly did that happen? Or is that giving away the candy store? Do we to
No, I don't. Secret sauce. What's in our secret sauce? So easy. It's so easy. And it is something that needs to be managed by somebody who knows what they're doing. Because when you get into this shadow work and this darkness and these really scary emotions that are hard to process, it can cause more trauma. You need people to hold the space for you. And I know you do that beautifully at your retreats. People need to feel safe in order to go to these places, right? Yeah. And sometimes it comes up. With me, when I first started it, my body was so relieved that I'd found something that worked that I just started dumping. And thankfully, I had a, quarter century of meditation and training behind me that I was able to handle it. But I was clearing trauma 3 to 6 hours a day, every day for months because it just dumped. I'd clear something and 10 minutes later, something new would come up.
Wow.
And so I just dealt with it. I meditated a lot. And the key thing is you're feeling whatever the emotion is, and you're feeling it wherever it is stuck in your body, and you're tapping on it. And this is the only place you're tapping. So it's not, they went through emotional freedom technique and, all the different spots. This is the only one that made permanent change. So this is the only one that they use.
Got it.
They didn't explain to me why this one works, but I have a theory. This is triple warmer. Starts on your finger here, and it goes down right here. It's the triple warmer meridian in Chinese medicine. And that is your adrenals and your nervous system. And so I think what happens is you're stimulating that to calm it down so you can feel whatever is underneath. And I think that's why it works. That's my theory, though. That's not their theory.
It makes sense.
If you're feeling an intense emotion, it is safe for you to just start tapping right here and feel it. But you have to feel it. You have to allow it to move through you.
Yes.
right? Because an emotion is it in motion, emotion, right? It has to move. When it gets stuck, you get chronic illness.
That's amazing. I love that. So maybe, well, do you think that in addition to the body association, the biographic,
Oh, and generational.
generational,
That's about 70% of trauma.
what do you think about past life trauma? Do you think we carry trauma in from past lives?
So I'm at about the intermediate level in the training. And that one's part of the expert level, but they actually have a biological reason for why we experience past lives. And it's somehow there's a ribosome related to a ribosome and they're stuck, and you create a story around it. Here's what I'm going to say about that. Before I learned this technique, there were plenty of times when I felt like I was remembering something, deja vu, journeying and having an experience that like, I'm sure this was me back in the day or whatever, right? I've had those experiences and people have asked me, do you think past lives are real? And my answer is, it doesn't matter. It's why. If it is useful to trigger the emotions to come to the surface so you can feel them and heal them, then use it.
Amen. Doesn't matter. We don't need to
I think by any means necessary.
Any means. Exactly. Like people, again, back to recovery, people like have a hard time with the higher power concept, right? And I say, does it matter? If it's working, right? If you just say, please, whatever's out there, please help me, right? And if that works, why do you need to figure it out? Just let it work.
Right. And that's actually a trauma. If you need to know why it's working, that's a micro trauma. I had to clear that because I needed to understand everything before it would clear. And so we had to clear my need to understand everything so that I could clear things. And at things like what your beliefs are about healing. If you believe healing is hard, it's going to be hard.
Yes.
And so if you believe healing takes a long time, then it's going to take a long time. If you believe you can't heal, then you won't.
Totally. Our mind is so insanely powerful. And I feel really lucky and blessed to be alive during a time when all this information is becoming like not so woo-woo anymore. Like it's becoming like real, and it's becoming real through a lot of the work that you're doing scientifically. It is provable.
But there's so much that we don't know. There's so much that we don't know. And I always say, the more I know I don't know.
Exactly.
Like humility is a huge aspect of shadow work. Huge. Because if you can't look in the mirror and own your effect on other people, you're not getting anywhere. You have to be able to look at that, and you have to be able to feel that shame and that anger at yourself. And depression is just anger turned inwards.
Yeah. 100%. Sometimes I feel lucky that I had the trauma that I've had, because a lot of them and the messaging that was given to me, even though it wasn't healthy, it actually spurs me sometimes and pushes me into like, maybe I need some healing around this, but I don't think I'm supposed to be happy and joyful 24/7. I think, right? There's supposed to be some times of that inner reflection, which is going to cause me some kind of emotional pain. And if I'm not willing to go through that, I'm not going to be skipping through the meadow looking at that stuff. It's going to suck, right? Or just having good days and bad days. I just, back to the pharmaceuticals. I know that you're like such an advocate for staying away from that stuff. And
we haven't used pharmaceutical in our house in 2 decades. I mean, there's been a couple emergencies.
Yeah.
But pretty good at avoiding them if I can.
And I think that's absolutely amazing. Yeah.
No, and commitment.
I'm sure it takes a lot of work, time, research, commitment. It's a lot easier to pop a pill.
Then we push it down further away. It takes longer to heal if we're trying to Band-Aid it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so people will say, well, I did what you said and I only feel a little better. Well, how long did you do it for? Well, 2 days. Okay. Give it 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Then tell me how you feel. Health can be defined by homeostasis. Is it in balance? And sometimes that balance is hard to find. And that's another key aspect to this shadow work is if you're constantly running from it, it's still in your body. It's still gonna, whether it's high blood pressure or chronic stomach aches or anxiety or insomnia, and the list, goes on. It's affecting you whether you look at it or not. And there was some times when I was training with my trauma instructor and I had a lot of terror that I had to clear. And feeling terror, I mean, how do you convince yourself, yeah, I want to feel this? And he'd find the trauma in me and he'd be like, okay, where is it in your body? And he'd talk me through the whole thing. And then he'd be like, what's the emotion? Fucking terror again. Just think about how great you're going to feel when it's not there anymore. And he was right. It's not there anymore. But getting through it, yeah, no joke. It was no joke.
Yeah, I had a friend recently who was telling me she was having a hard time reaching some childhood trauma and this and that. And she finally started allowing herself to feel. And she was really sad. And she was like, how do I make this go away? And I said, you don't. You don't. You
let it dissipate.
Allow it to flow through. And then, yes, at some point, poof, it'll be gone. And you'll be like, oh, wow. Whatever happens to make that thought go away, that feeling go away, it does, but you can't push it away. How do you feel about taking pharmaceuticals if you have a chemical imbalance?
I think it depends on the person and their willingness and access. So your body is not deficient in pharmaceuticals. It will never cure you because that's not what you're deficient in, right? So whatever is throwing your body out of homeostasis, that is what is going to fix the problem. Antidepressants, all the recent research said that they really don't work. And you can go and look at that, like all the peer-reviewed research out there is like, these really don't do much. What they tend to do is they tend to bring your moods down like this. So you don't have lows, but you don't have highs either. And that's not living, that's existing. Are there ways to deal with it otherwise? Well, for sure. Almost always there's a mineral imbalance or a vitamin imbalance. That's really most people are deficient in magnesium. And if you're deficient in magnesium, you can't poop, you can't get rid of your toxins, and your nervous system is anxious.
Okay.
And magnesium's a huge one because it's just really not in our diet. And in the nervous system, the four key things are sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium.
Okay.
All of your nerve conduction takes those four minerals. And so when people are like, well, they took me off a high salt diet and I don't feel good. Well, you need salt. It's absolutely necessary to function. Yeah. And so when people go too much potassium and not enough sodium, that's not a good thing. But there's a lot of calcium in our diets, whether it's enriched or it's in most fruits and vegetables, it's in the meats, but there's not a ton of magnesium in a standard American diet. So that tends to be the one that is missing most often. And it's huge for muscle relaxation and nervous system relaxation and calm and sleep and all of those things.
Yeah. And why we're talking about this for the audience, if it feels like we're getting a little off track here, is because all of these things that we're talking about is going to help you get that nervous system set, relaxation, calm, so that you can then look at the shadow.
And here's something that is a really simple technique that you can use. So a lot of times when people can't be in their body and can't calm down the vagus nerve, which comes out between the skull and the top vertebrae, is compressed or overwhelmed in some way. And there's a really simple way that you can release that.
Tell us.
Super simple. So all you do is you start by, you look one way and you look the other way, and then you come back to center. And then from here, you stay center and just your eyes, nothing else, just your eyes looks to one side. There's my sigh. You look that way until you sigh. And then you look the other way and you don't force the sigh. And it could be a yawn, but it's natural. And then once you've had that sigh, and sometimes it takes a minute, slightly over a minute to hit that. Once you do that, move your head again. And you can see how much further you can move your head. It releases the vagus nerve. Awesome. Super easy.
I usually just suggest people stick out their bellies. Just extend your belly, right? Does that work as well to engage the vagus nerve?
Well, it's all over the place, right? So usually it tends to get stuck in the neck, though, because so many of us, we're staring down at our phone or sitting all day. And so this gets all compressed. And the vagus nerve innervates most of your torso and most of your organs. It's a big deal. And so if you can release it, it makes a gigantic difference. And it's also the trigeminal nerve goes up and down too. All of your neurotransmitters that affect your mood and your ability to feel are made in your belly, not in your brain. And so that's why they talk about the gut-brain connection. It's like the third brain. So you've got the heart and the brain and gut. And so that's why this is so key. And it's very hard to heal when you don't feel good. And when you don't have the capacity in your nervous system to hold the emotion. And that's a big thing that I see. And it might be our age or where we're at, but I see a lot of people having relationship problems. A lot of it comes from insecure attachment.
Yes.
And people who have dismissive avoidant insecure attachment, their nervous system is wired differently. And they shut down the minute they start to feel. So it's very hard for them to heal because they can't feel because their nervous system goes into freeze because they were taught as a child that it wasn't safe to feel, that there was something wrong with big emotions. And so they just learn to clamp down on them. And they have to be trained out of that. Being able to get in there and feel and look at how you are creating the world that you're living in is absolutely key to being happy.
And it's so empowering. You have the control.
Yes. Yes.
You can do this. Like, you can do it. And there are millions of people, millions and millions and millions of people who have done this.
Yes.
Who have healed, and we're always healing, right? It's never ending. But to get to a place where you can function and enjoy your life. You're allowed, first of all, I always think people need permission. You don't have to suffer.
Yeah.
People have done it. So you can too. Yeah.
It's cool. That's the key. When you look at somebody like us, that you went through your addiction, I went through that childhood trauma, that kind of thing. If you're caught in your story, you're going to stay stuck in the loop.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get past your story. But if we can do it, then so can anybody else. Like it's not magic. It is commitment. And what we see is people, what we call spiritual bypassing. That's a huge part of avoiding shadow work. So spiritual bypassing is when, bless, throw some love light on it. Oh, negate. I said something, negate, and they don't ever feel. And so it's kind of like they're existing on the surface of their life and their relationships are never deep and they're from person to person or job to job and they don't understand. It's just everything's happy. It's joy. I'm just going to focus on joy.
Mm-hmm.
We're human. We're meant to have emotions. That's how we learn. That's how our soul learns. That's how we discover and grow. Like, how sad that we wouldn't feel.
I feel similarly when you talk about joy. I feel that gratitude is another one that's used a lot. Like, I'm not allowed to feel bad or whatever. I should just be grateful. I live in a house. I have heat. I have food. My kids are healthy. And yes, I am.
Yes.
And I'm allowed.
It's yes and, not yes but.
Exactly.
And that's the key, because when you're like, well, I shouldn't be thinking that. Yeah, but you are. So now you're judging yourself and shaming yourself. Yeah. And that's not helpful.
Yeah.
That's to help you feel
normal and natural. I say it all the time. Sorry if you've heard me say this 5 times before. Spectrum of emotion. We are human beings with a full broad range spectrum of emotion. We must feel it all. So, okay, if I let this go any longer, it's going to be a nightmare to edit. So I'm going to put it down, and I wish we could talk for like 3 more hours, I'm sure. But tell everybody, Jodi, where they can find you, how they can work with you, all that good stuff.
That's really easy. It's higherlivingjourney.com.
Everything. Just go there.
From a social media perspective, really, you're going to find me on Facebook. And people go on like my business page, and the algorithms are terrible for business pages. So I just opened up my personal page for followers because it was easier. And so you'll find me talking about all sorts of things, from weird conspiracy things to medical freedom stuff to shadow work to all the things.
Really interesting. I love reading your posts. It's just so fascinating.
Not boring.
You're not. Oh no, you are far from boring, and you're so fair and neutral when you talk about things. You don't take a side. You should be like a new news broadcaster because you actually give the news. And
Right. I was a television news producer years ago.
there you go.
I'm so bothered by what's happening in the world and the twisting and the sound bites and the way they twist the narrative. It's not truth. And ultimately, whether you're doing shadow work or talking about what's happening in the world or teaching your child, the key is truth. I just want to know what the truth is, even if it's hard, even if I don't like it, even if I'm wrong, especially if I'm wrong. Like, I want to know what the truth is, and whatever that is, I'll deal with it. But if we don't have truth as our foundation, then what are we doing?
That's probably why there's so much anxiety out there, is because we don't know what the truth is, and we need that to feel safe and secure. But I don't want to get off on a whole other
thing. So
it's very tempting. If you would like to come back, I would love to have you again. We can talk more.
we can talk about all the things. So yeah, higherlivingjourney.com. And my job is to meet you wherever you are on your journey and help you take the next step.
And you do offer free 30-minute discovery calls, right? So people can meet with you.
And the phone number's on there. People are like, can I just schedule? Yeah, I homeschool 3 kids, and I'm not all that great at checking my email religiously. So just call. Just call. Or on Facebook. You can always find me on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, I like that. I'm the same way. Like, I have Calendly, but I'm like, I never use it because I'd have to update it 4 times a day. Like, just let's text. Like, just let's actually talk.
Make it easy. We're moms, right? And the people who are listening to us are probably moms. They get it.
Yeah, totally. All right, Jodi. Well, thank you so much. It's been insightful and a pleasure, and you are a ray of sunshine. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, I'll look forward to seeing you soon and giving you a hug. We pass it at the chiropractor's office. And thank you so much for having me. And I hope it helped.
Yes, it was great. It was great. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.